not, it's not only ammonia which is causing the problem. So that's why it doesn't help. So there were studies which showed that arterial ammonia is better than venous ammonia. The reason was whenever we do ammonia level, you need a proper chain for that. You need to collect the sample immediately, put it on an ice pack, and immediately it should go to the lab. The problems with this arterial ammonia was venous ammonia was too much. So that's why arterial ammonia was used. But recently it has been proven both are more or less same. There is not much of difference. Yes, same with the lactate level. Dr. Radhika, you can start, I think.
So acute liver failure is associated with cytokine storm, release of pro-inflammatory cytokines, DAMs, PAMs, and at the same time anti-inflammatory markers. They all lead to monocyte dysfunction, leading to multi-organ failure and secondary infections. Liver supportive therapy helps in bridging these patients to spontaneous recovery or transplant. So there are various artificial extracorporeal therapies which we can use. So renal replacement modalities, we know of CRRT, high volume hemofiltration, and use of high cutoff membranes along with CRRT. Adsorption modalities like hemoadsorption with cytosorb, Oxiris, HA332 filters helps in controlling the cytokine storm and endotoxins released by the failing liver. Even we can do hybrid modalities like combination of DP mass therapy with plasma exchange. Combination hybrid modalities like MAS, Prometheus, CPFA, single pass albumin dialysis are mainly for adsorption of albumin bound products and toxins and our most famous plasma exchange. We will mainly focus on CRRT and plasma exchange. So the role of CRRT in ALF, as we all know, it helps in maintaining the intracranial hemostasis by constant removal of ammonia and lesser fluctuations in ICP due to the stable removal of ammonia and control of cerebral edema in high-grade hepatic encephalopathy patients. There is large-scale evidence supporting the role of CRRT in hyperammonemia and cerebral edema, as it helps in decreasing the cerebral edema and hence decreasing mortality in ALF patients. Mainly the US acute failure study group has done a lot of studies in hyperammonemia and CRRT. CRRT helps in controlling the SIRS response. It mainly removes the water-soluble molecules less than 50 kilodaltons. We can club it with high-volume hemodiafiltration or high cutoff membranes like cytosorb, Oxiris, which helps in controlling cytokines and endotoxins. But there are no large-scale RCTs to support this, like plasma exchange. There is a lot of evidence done in use of these modalities in sepsis. In the early phase, that is in the SIRS phase, use of high volume hemofiltration, use of high cutoff membranes have shown that early initiation of these therapies help in controlling the SIRS response and later helps in decreasing the mortality. So various filters are available in the market like toremixin, Oxiris, lipopolysaccharide membranes and HA330 filters. They have different compositions. Toremixin and Oxiris helps in adsorption of even endotoxins, and different blood flow rates are used and different settings on CRRT have to be used while using these filters. Other replacement therapies like double plasma molecular adsorption system, in which we adsorb bilirubin along with cytokines by using HA330 filter and bilirubin adsorption filter. It helps in removal of even albumin-bound toxins and cytokines, but more literature is needed. All these MAS, Prometheus, single pass albumin dialysis and coupled plasma filtration adsorption helps in removal of albumin-bound toxins, but large-scale evidence is lacking. For MAS and Prometheus, the Relief trial and Helios trial have not shown any mortality benefit. In fact, it has shown many adverse effects. Let's go to plasma exchange in ALF. So there are two techniques to do plasma exchange. One is the membranous technique on our SLED machines by using a P2 filter, or we can use a centrifugal method through blood bank by using Spectro-Optia machines or Combitech machines. The membranous technique depends on molecular size-based removal, and the centrifugal technique is based on the density of the molecules. Most of the clinical trials have used the centrifugal plex technique. So, but what is the exact difference between these two techniques? So, the membranous therapeutic plasma exchange, which is routinely followed, extracts only a smaller proportion of plasma, around 30% per unit time, compared to the centrifugal technique, which separates around 80%. But there are more hemodynamic fluctuations with membranous technique, as it requires a higher blood flow. So in patients with hemodynamic instability, centrifugal technique is better over membranous. Even in membranous technique, the already activated blood cells get more activated due to contact with the membrane and leads to further inflammation in the liver. You can use either citrate or heparin as anticoagulation. So this is the basic pathogenesis and why do we use therapeutic plasma exchange. So whenever there is an acute insult to the liver in the form of viral or drugs or others, there is hepatic necrosis, which leads to release of DAMPs, activation of pro-inflammatory, activation of Kupffer cells, release of pro-inflammatory cytokines. There is bacterial translocation, which leads to release of PAMs, leading to vasodilatation and endothelial injury. Von Willebrand factors, they get attached to the endothelium, and this is where the plasma exchange helps in reducing the DAMs, PAMs released by the failing liver. It replenishes the clotting factors, fibrinogen and ADAMTS13. So the APSA recommendations for therapeutic plasma exchange have included acute liver failure as class 1A indication for plasma exchange using high volume plasmapheresis based on the Larsen trial, which is the largest RCT conducted on therapeutic plasma exchange till date. So this is the few of the landmark trials done in plasma exchange which have shown survival benefit, transplant-free survival using plasma exchange. Larsen study was the largest RCT conducted at 3 major European centers. They have used membranous technique and have used high volume plasma exchange around 8 to 12 liters per session. All these trials differed in the technique of plasma exchange and the volume of plasma exchange, but at the end, all of them got a better transplant-free survival using plasma exchange. The cohort differed in the form of Larsen mainly had paracetamol toxicity as the major cohort. Meval et al. Had viral hepatitis as major cohort, and Thomas had yellow phosphorus as the major. All of them presented with hyperacute liver failure with grade 3, grade 4 encephalopathy. Around 50 to 60% of ALF patients, they require RRT. So this we have already seen. This is the Larsen study conducted at 3 major centers in Europe and have used high volume plasma exchange and have shown that it's better than the standard medical therapy and helps in removal of cytokines. The main thing which they highlighted was high volume plasma exchange prior to transplant did not improve survival compared to standard medical therapy alone. If high volume plasma exchange was given to KCC positive cases who were awaiting transplant prior to transplant, they found only 26.1% survival compared to standard medical therapy. Later use of high volume plasma exchange not in the initial phase in the immune paralysis stage led to sepsis in these cases. There was no difference in lactate concentration in either group. The modality of RRT was not specified in the Larsen study, and they used at least 3 sessions of high volume plasma exchange for each patient. There was high volume plasma exchange increases the risk for citrate toxicity, development of metabolic complications, hypocalcemia, reduction in plasma concentrations of administered drugs, and leads to immunomodulation and greater risk of sepsis. It has been clearly shown that even after exchange of around 1.5 to 2 liters of plasma volume, which is the standard plasma volume, around 85 to 87% of toxins or initial concentration of toxins can be decreased, and there is no need for giving high volume plasma exchange. So Rakhi Mehwal did a standard volume plasma exchange and found that it increases transplant-free survival in hyperacute viral hepatitis cases. It was a retrospective study, and they divided the cohort into 20 cases who received standard medical therapy and 20 received standard plus plasma exchange. And on follow-up, they found that the mortality was more in standard medical therapy group compared to plasma exchange group. So, but in her study, around 70% of the patient had SIRS, and the dialysis modality was interchangeable between SLED and CRRT. Though the patients were in grade 3, grade 4 HE, few of them received SLED. CRRT dose was less than 35 ml per kg per hour. She also found that the PLEX initiated within 12 hours of arrival should be initiated within 12 hours of arrival, and late initiation causes increased risk of sepsis. They found like around 85% of the patients recovered with 1 or 2 sessions of plasma exchange, mainly because it was a good, the etiology was hepatitis, viral hepatitis, which carries good prognosis. The slow non-responders, which required 4 to 5 sessions, had highest SOFA score. 75% needed RRT, were acidotic, and had thrombocytopenia. So a systemic review of literature and meta-analysis was done, comparing plasma exchange according to the etiology of the disease. The cohorts were divided, and the effect of plasma exchange in single etiology was studied. So they took both the RCTs, Larsen and Rakhi Mehwal RCT, and they took 6 cohort studies, and 3 were with single etiology, which were Wilson's, yellow phosphorus, and AFLP. And they found that plasma exchange increases transplant-free survival if it is within single etiology and not all the ALF patients. So the etiology of liver disease plays a pivotal role in prognosticating patients with ALF, and the outcomes of PLEX thus depends on the etiology of the liver failure. The survival benefit was similar in patients with high standard or low volume of plasma exchange used. Laura et al. Retrospectively collected data from around 7 UK transplant centers between June 2013 and December 2021, and they found that plasma exchange does not improve survival in real world cohort. Their cohort mainly consisted of paracetamol etiology, KCC positive cases with high SOFA score, and patients on high dose of vasopressors. They found that plasma exchange was associated with improvement in hemodynamic parameters but no survival benefit. So majority of the patients, they did a centrifugal plex with 80% receiving FFP as replacement fluid. Around 68.7% ALF survived to hospital discharge and 60% were KCC positive. Transplant-free survival in KCC positive cases was only 21%, but post-transplant it was 91.8%. The overall survival in Plex cohort was just 52%. So as compared to the Larsen study, which was also a UK-based study, they divided the cohort and they found that the cohort in these from 2013 to 2021 were more sicker group of patients compared to the Larsen study, in which they took ALF patients with grade 2 HE and in their cohort it was mainly patients with high organ failure scores and patients requiring high vasopressors, higher lactate levels compared, and when they saw that, they found that the transplant-free survival mainly depended on age and KCC status and the acidemia or hyperlactatemia rather than not on the plex. Whether the patient received plex or not received plex, it mainly depends on the inherent characteristic of the patient, whether he was KCC positive with high SOFA score, had a high hyperlactatemia or was acidotic. Plex does showed improvement in hemodynamic parameters, but there was no survival benefit. And etiology did play a role in prognosticating the cases. So after going through all this, we understand the timing of plasma exchange is not same in all the studies we went through. So there is a lot of scope of research in this in plasma exchange. So timing of plasma exchange early is more beneficial. The volume, standard or low volume is sufficient. No need for high volume plasma exchange. Sessions should be individualized and not fixed sessions like 3 sessions. Role of measurement of interleukins, TNF alpha, von Willebrand factors and other cytokines in deciding initiation or termination of plasma exchange. There is a need for randomized control trials, role of combination therapies, and to identify which etiologies of ALF are best served by plasma exchange. So what do we follow is, plasma exchange should be considered in KCC negative cases in presence of SIRS. In KCC positive cases in etiologies such as yellow phosphorus, Wilson's, paracetamol poisoning, plasma exchange can be considered with transplant workup in progress. It should be individualized approach to plasma exchange rather than fixed sessions. Monitoring of delta INR, lactates, ammonia, ONSD, SOFA and MAP. CRRT and Plex can be used in tandem in patients with organ failures, with hyperlactatemia, hyperammonemia in above mentioned etiologies. Caution of using Plex in KCC positive cases. KCC positive cases can be bridged to transplant with CRRT using hemoadsorption. So the take-home message is, these are extracorporeal therapies which can be used as bridge to transplant or recovery. It has to be individualized approach and due to lack of large RCTs in these modalities. Thank you.